And we are live. Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the Best Phone Plans Podcast. Joining us today, we have special guest Sneed from Sneed Mobile Tech. Sneed has been following the wireless industry, focusing on the networks, how they're building out, testing the services and plans. And we're so excited to have him here. You can find Sneed's channel linked in the podcast description if you're interested in checking that out. But Sneed, welcome to the show.
Thanks, Stetson. Appreciate it, man. Thanks for having me on again.
Yeah, so for this episode, I was thinking of talking about T-Mobile's new Magenta Max and their updated Magenta plans. Maybe touching on some of the T-Mobile home internet issues you've been experiencing. Just want to share that with the audience. And then maybe wrapping up with some of the C-band auction news that I feel like just came out these past couple of days here. So yeah, maybe we can just dive right into it with Magenta and Magenta Max. So what happened with Magenta Max, and kind of what are your first impressions of the new plans?
On the surface, I think the plan is really nice for power users. I think that's pretty apparent when you look at what they're trying to sell you here. It's an upsell. They're trying to get you away from Magenta and Essentials. If you were a customer that felt compelled to upgrade to something a little bit more premium, maybe you're looking for more capacitive experience, higher resolution video playback. Maybe you were getting deprioed at times of congestion. Maybe there's a couple of tower sites you've been connecting to. This puts you at top of the totem pole and kind of gives you priority. For most people, this may not be the move. There are probably some people who are satisfied with what they have. But I think this is a 5 to 10%er kind of switcheroo, where if there's a small percentage of people who have essentials that are like, maybe I need something better, or Magenta that like Magenta but maybe are like, wow, they got this 5G thing going on. Let me see what this could really do. Let me see the 4K video. Let me try the more tethering. And who knows, maybe this brings in a new revenue stream for T-Mobile, because obviously they're building out a very expensive network deployment. They need to monetize that, and this is probably step one of that business move.
Yeah, no, absolutely. So I think we should quickly take a step back. So for people who may be unfamiliar, on the 24th of this month, March 24th, T-Mobile launched Magenta, an updated Magenta plan, and a brand new Magenta Max plan. On the Magenta side of things, we saw the post-paid priority data increase from 50 gigs to 100 gigs, and the hotspot data increase from 3 gigs to 5 gigs. Other than that, the plans are the same. The new Magenta Max plan is basically a revised or updated version of Magenta Plus. We get unlimited post-paid priority data, which is exactly what Sneed was talking about, why this may be better for high premium data users. And the hotspot got updated from 20 gigs to 40 gigabytes, which is insane. And how do these plans compare with what Verizon and AT&T are offering? Like, does it make sense to compare these plans because the networks are so different, or are they is like T-Mobile trying to grab some of the AT&T unlimited elite plans and grab those customers, or are they trying to, what's the plan here, and how do they compare with kind of the industry offerings?
It feels like an answer to the AT&T Elite.
I think
is what it feels like. I don't know if Verizon really has this type of plan. I feel like you got to spend an additional $10 to get the HD add-on for Verizon 1080p. This is actually designed to give you up to 4K under certain applications. They'll guarantee it. So I feel like this offers something more than Verizon will give you, right, in terms of the capacity access. But it puts it right on par with what AT&T does. And actually, in my use of AT&T Elite, I still think the AT&T Elite is better than this. Because the AT&T Elite throttles nothing. I've never been throttled under any circumstances on the Elite, ever. Not a slowdown on the network, not a video throttle, like nothing. They just let it rip. It's fast.com, Netflix, whatever, full bore.
Now, I will just say I actually think it's a two-pronged attack. I do think it's in response to AT&T's Elite plan, but I also think that this is a method to try to generate more revenue from their current subscriber base who maybe are on legacy Sprint plans. Maybe they're on the free line promos. Simple Choice customers, or even people like myself that are on the old OnePlus plan that was grandfathered in, I think this is a direct response to them, especially for single line users, right? Because now one of the big changes they made is Netflix for single line customers like myself. We get to take advantage of it, included in the new Magenta Max plans. So I think they're trying to get a little bit more revenue out of people like myself. Now, I have a question for you, Sneed. I don't know if you're familiar with the old T-Mobile One Plus plan in particular, but do you think that the plan that I currently have is better than the Magenta Max plan that's been released?
I do think your plan is better. I do.
What makes it better?
I feel like when I look at the usage on the T-Mobile One with the Plus add-on or the international add-on, gives you unlimited tethering data for that $25 fee, which can't be replaced under any circumstances with any carrier, right? So that's a unique plan. The only one that might compare might be something like what Carlos Estec has, where he has the original Verizon Unlimited plan from like 2005. Those are really the only two plans that can do this, because I feel like AT&T weaseled their way out of the old grandfathered plan and somehow pulled it off. I don't know how they got away with it, but they've been consuming carriers and businesses since 1890. They might as well have figured it out. But yeah, those are really the last two. Like, they're like dinosaurs, relics of the original unlimited plans.
Is it weird to anyone else that the included Netflix plan is Netflix Basic, which is standard definition, but the plan is advertising 4K
Standard.
streaming or HD streaming?
Yeah. But where they got you is they said you can have a single line and we'll give you the Netflix, right? No longer tethered to a multi-line account.
And T-Mobile...
No, go ahead, Dennis.
And I was just going to say, T-Mobile doesn't stop the customer from upgrading their Netflix plan. You just pay the difference in cost. So if having 4K Netflix is important, you could always bump it up. It's, what is it, $18 now for 4K Netflix? Right?
Yeah,
right.
I think, and T-Mobile's probably giving you credit, so it's probably like maybe $14. Yeah, $10 to $14, something like that.
Yeah.
I mean, I think for people who aren't on the legacy T-Mobile One plans, this is a great upgrade and a great plan to consider for premium users, especially with the current price point. Dennis, I think you found something that's indicated the price may actually increase, though. What's going on there?
Yeah, I mean, if you read the fine print on T-Mobile's website, they say this is like a promotional offer. Like, this is like a limited time thing. If I had to take, this is just an educated guess and speculation, not something that's rock solid. But if I had to take a guess, I think T-Mobile is going to leave the pricing as is because of the merger agreements where they promised not to increase pricing for new plans. But after maybe like a year or whatever the length of time was, I guarantee you they raised the rates on it.
Sneed, what's your take? It sounded like you may disagree with that, or there might be a different ploy here to quote unquote keep the rates the same, but also offer more expensive options.
So Dennis is onto something. Their build out is going to be so expensive and costly. They have to start monetizing those upgrades. So, if they're going to raise their capital investment from $6-7 billion a year to essentially doubling it to 12, 13, 14 billion as anticipated, somebody has to pay, and it's always going to be the customer. It's not coming out of Mike Sievert and Cruz's pocket. So, my anticipation is that this could be stage one of the upsell, that they're moving towards new plans while retaining the other ones per the merger agreement.
Yeah, Mike's not going to be like, yeah, I think I'll just lower my salary this year, put that back into the customers deserve. No way, right?
You want him to stop eating, caviar and filet mignon? You want him to eat ramen noodles? Come on, man.
Dennis, you want to go ahead?
Yeah, I was just going to say, speaking on the topic of these new plans, you know what I would have really liked to see? On the regular T-Mobile Magenta plan, I really wish they would have raised the video streaming allotment to either 720p to match what Verizon was doing with their HD or 1080p. Because if they would have did that, they would have single-handedly undercut what AT&T Elite plan was. Because 100 gigabytes of premium data, they would both be equal. Now, granted, the hotspot would be less, but for a lot of people, that's not too big of a deal. And then having the HD streaming, even if it was only like 5 megabits per second or 8 megabits per second, whatever it is that they throttled at, that would have been a lot more easier to chew on, and it would have been $15 cheaper before taxes than what AT&T charges for an equivalent plan.
Yeah, and AT&T is adding taxes on where T-Mobile actually is including taxes in the Magenta price. So, in my opinion, as exciting as Magenta Max is, and I kind of do like the branding, like it matches what Apple's doing, trying to get that premium mindset going with consumers. But I think the real win here for consumers is the Magenta plan, just getting those upgrades. Like all existing, or at least my understanding is all existing Magenta customers are just going to get these features. Is that right?
I think they have to call in, or no, they don't have to call in and change.
They're gonna send you a message. Like the way that I've seen it in the past is if whenever a plan gets modified that benefits the customer, but it won't change the pricing, they send you a message. We're gonna upgrade you for free if you want it, which is good, right? They give you that option. They still let you be the one making the decision. So they're like, I remember when they were they were sending messages to people with, I want to say it was a Simple Choice 3 gig plan.
Simple Choice.
They were like, we're just going to give you unlimited. Like your plan doesn't change, your account doesn't change. What they want to do is they want to simplify billing, and they want to get everybody on the same core operations within the accounts. So this would probably end up this way. I think they'll notify people that have Magenta Plus and say, hey, look, we got a new Magenta Plus. It's Magenta Max. We're going to give you better DPRIO levels. We're going to give you more hotspot. Enjoy the benefits, no cost.
Yeah, my friend Austin, we're on the Magenta Plus plan right now, and he was able to contact T-Mobile, and I believe our plan is switching over to Magenta Max next billing cycle for us. So we weren't able to do it immediately, but next billing cycle. And I'm hoping we are able to keep all the free line discounts.
You're not.
Ooh, Dennis.
We got a thing there.
Yeah,
when did you get the free lines?
This would have been last year during those like December promotions or whatever they were running.
You're good. You're going to get to keep those lines. The cutoff is November of 2019. I just found that out.
Wow.
If you have free lines from before November 2019, you don't get to keep them free with this plan. So, look, you got to ask these people these questions when you speak to customer care. Do not go in this blind asking for Magenta Max. Have a situation like with Dennis's legacy plan where he's going to lose a lot of value. Dennis's plan, and I've seen this already. Somebody, DM'd me in Twitter and said, hey, Sneed, I just upgraded. My bill went from 160 to 300 because all of his lines became 3 at 150. You know what I'm saying? So he used to have 2 or 3 free lines. So not only did his bill go up for having a more premium plan, but now he started paying for the free lines.
That's the gotcha. That's a sneaky move on T-Mobile.
Well, you got to train your employees. They have to be able to tell the customers what it is, and they have to know, and they have to be knowledgeable, because if they don't know, it's negligence, which is the same as stealing. It's on you in business. You have to follow through on your end.
My rule of thumb when dealing with anything telecom related is read the fine print, talk to 3 people, and make sure I'm hearing the same thing before I pull the trigger or anything. I know that sounds like paranoia, but I had a horror story with AT&T that I've already shared on this show that took 3 months of my time to resolve.
My goodness.
And never again, right? Never again. AT&T's billing nightmares have taught me to be extra cautious. And look, I've had great experiences with T-Mobile. Like, I want to be clear here. I love their support. I love their T-Force team, whatever they call it. But I read Reddit, especially when it comes to these free line deals. Now, I don't have anything too crazy. I'm a 1-line account with a free digits number that I got. But that's all I got. I'm a simple man. But this line is too important to have anything get messed up, whether it be a changing of a number or some weird provisioning issues or whatever it is, which is why I'm very hesitant whenever T-Mobile tries to do anything that's too attractive.
Yeah. Is there anything else you guys feel like should cover with the new T-Mobile plans?
Yeah, the 55 for the 55 and older.
Yeah, yeah, Dennis, what's going on there?
Yeah, so T-Mobile basically is doing 2 really awesome things. One is for people 55 and over, they can get the Magenta Max plan at a discounted rate. But 2, and even more exciting, is they're allowing people on the 55 and over plans to allow up to 4 lines on the account, which is just tremendous value. I want to say, like, with the discount that you get with the Magenta Plus plans, it's like $35 a line, if I remember correctly, which if you're doing 4 lines that way and you're getting even if you're just getting the regular Magenta, right? $35 a line for regular Magenta, that's pretty good value. I can't do math in my head. How much is that? 140.
You said 30. Yeah, you said 35 each. It's 70 for two. That's 140. And everything's included, right? No taxes.
No taxes.
With that. That's such a good value. I mean, that's where you really approach like the prepaid value. Like even if you were to go with like Mint Mobile's plan, you're looking at $30 a month, but then you're adding in taxes and fees, and you have to pay upfront annually for that plan to get that rate.
And so postpaid priority.
And so if you're going with T-Mobile, like that's where it's actually a really good value, and that's where it makes sense for a lot of people. So I would almost recommend, like, if you have 4 lines, 55 plus people, you're able to qualify for that. I would jump on the bandwagon.
For you young bucks out there, just ask your parents. I mean, I've told this on the show, and I have no shame. I'm on my dad's AT&T plan still because A, he didn't want me removing lines, but B, because he gets some discounts from being like a firefighter and different things. So I milk that. I pay like...
Is he FirstNet?
He's not... Well, so here's the deal with FirstNet, Sneed. I was going to do that. We could have did it. But FirstNet's weird. You can only have like the one FirstNet line, and the other 2 lines of the account would have still had to be like AT&T like normal plans. Mm-hmm. So from a pricing standpoint, it didn't make sense. And there was some other caveats with how like the FirstNet worked. So we just said, we'll get Elite. I think we pay like $170 for the 3 lines, which ain't bad because before discounts it would have been like $240. So I mean, it works. I mean, I use my T-Mobile phone more than anything, which circling back to that, Sneed, real quick question for you. Have you actually got the Magenta Max plan for testing?
I believe that the line I have access on the account with is, I think we're moving over to Business Magenta Max.
Okay.
Because I'm pretty sure the account has free lines that date back to 2019, so we're probably covered. So the rate won't change. It won't cost any additional dollars. It's just going to be that converted upgrade.
What I would love to see you do is I would love to see you test your old plan with the new one, and specifically I'd like you to run a fast.com test, because when they say up to 4K, I would be curious to know if they're going to throttle it to 25 megabits per second, or if it's going to be like my One Plus plan where it's truly just like whatever speed I'm getting.
And that's why I'm telling you got to stick with that One Plus. I call it the John Ledger plan.
Yeah.
A lot of people call it the T-Mobile One Plus. I don't think that's the right name. It should be called the Ledger plan, because he embodied that plan. He said we're going to give them a truly unlimited experience. We're not throttling anything. We're not going to restrict them. This is an unlimited plan as designed by me.
Well, wait a minute. If you remember when the T-Mobile One plan was first rolled out, it was actually much worse than my Simple Choice North American plan that I had, because they had the day passes. You had to buy, or you either had to buy day passes daily for the regular One plan, or if you had the One Plus add-on, you had to literally redeem it every 24 hours, which is the reason why I avoided it. And then also with the One plans is when they introduced the actual 22 gigabyte soft cap, which later got retroactively added to the older Simple Choice plans. But prior to that, my Simple Choice North America plan, which I was paying like $80 for at the time, with it came with Rhapsody music.
I remember that, yeah.
Was actually a better plan. Now, when they came out with the promo for the free One Plus add-on is when I made the switch over because of the tax and fees included. But I actually spent the extra $5 because I remember visual voicemail. Visual voicemail wasn't included in the free. I know that's a stupid thing to like laugh about, but it wasn't included in the free add-on version.
It's a transcription service, correct, for the voicemail?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, the text to speech.
Yeah.
I mean, speech to text. Yeah. Which is something important because I have a Samsung phone, so I have that baked into my phone app.
Yeah, just the app. It's now built into iPhone too. Like, you don't even need the add-on. Like, people should not be buying that, in my opinion.
Can we do 2 public service announcements real quick to help the people of the Stetson Army here? All right, so the first thing is, if you have a T-Mobile One plan, I recommend sticking to what you have, especially if it predates 2019. The second thing I want to do as a PSA is do not pay any prorated fees. Just wait 2 weeks. Go get a burger. Go get a sandwich. Go read a book. By the time you finish the book, you'll be good to go. You'll be on Magenta Max. Pump the brakes. Don't pay a $30 fee or a $20 fee unnecessarily. Don't do it.
Thank you for that public announcement, Sneed, helping the people save money where it matters. And we actually had a comment from a live viewer turning in. Corby says that Magenta Max has unthrottled video, apparently. So love to see that, and I'm excited to see more people confirming that just to make sure, but that's really exciting. And I think the final thing I want to touch on here, how do you think AT&T and Verizon will respond to this? Do their networks have the capacity to offer a truly unlimited priority access plan?
Sneed's face.
The truth is, there's not a single network out there that can actually do this right. Not even T-Mobile.
So that begs the question then, Sneed. How is this plan going to impact the T-Mobile network experience for T-Mobile customers? I was, seeing on Twitter, we had Chris from Coverage Critic saying, this is actually going to increase congestion. This is going to lower the experience. What are your thoughts?
There's a couple of factors. T-Mobile has hope wherever they have N41 grand scale. So if you have clusters of cell sites, meaning if there's 20 or 30 cell sites within a vicinity or area and a majority of them have been upgraded to N41, T-Mobile won't skip a beat. That's not usually the case, though, because N41 is such a new channel. It's a newly, acquired spectrum through the merger with Sprint. It's going to take a little bit of time. I really think that T-Mobile's probably 6 months away from actually doing this without skipping a beat. But in my opinion, there will be tower sites where this is going to be a train wreck because those tower sites will not be newly modernized. So if you're on a band 2 only, you're done. If you're on a band 12 only, you are done. You won't get 1 megabit. That's going to be let's see. Okay, so if that's the best it could do, it's over. If anybody gets that plan on that tower site, it's over.
Listen, Sneed, that's good speeds for right now.
No, Dennis.
Listen, Sneed. I know you've in the past kind of got upset with some of the things I had to say, but let me just do a quick moment here. So I'm from Pittsburgh, which I know you already hate me because
no. No, my wife is from Pittsburgh, bro. We're good. Right on, bro.
All right. Well, anyway, let me just say right up front, T-Mobile, garbage in my market. We had Ben Boxer on last week. He also confirmed he's at Carnegie Mellon, which is like a huge techie sciencey school. AT&T is king. I get 200, 300 megabits per second down in my market. Verizon, I know that's your favorite in your market, Sneed. Not incredible, but very consistent is what I'll say for them. So you're not getting anything that's mind-boggling, but you're getting a good 50 meg, right? Usable stuff. T-Mobile, hit or miss. I was going to say there's a Sheets that's a quarter of a mile away from me. Not even that. And when I'm on N41, it's beautiful. I'm getting 200 meg, maybe 300 meg on a good day.
Wait, you're a quarter mile away from an N41 site?
Yeah, from a Sheets that has N41. But the propagation's terrible.
Wow. Okay.
I mean the speed test I just ran. I'm connected to band 66, 15 by 15, N71, which is what they recently just added, 5x5. That's what made those speeds usable. Before the N71,
it's got to be 15 megahertz on that N71 if you're gonna have a chance.
Yeah, but before they add that N71 speed, I'm not joking when I say this, I would never see above 10 meg. So the fact that they added that skinny channel made a huge difference but
that skinny channel is a new channel. That's why it made a difference. So whoever doesn't have a 5G phone is rocking LTE problems. So you're kind of hanging out with just a few people right now on the end side.
That's it. But yeah, I mean, there's band 66, band 2, 15 by 15, and then there's band 12 5x5, and then N71 5x5, and then band 71 5x5 on the LTE channel as well.
Where's the rest of that 71? Why are they going 5x5?
Dude,
what is going
I asked
on?
the same questions, and you know what makes me even more upset? Is there was a Sprint site that was live before they decommissioned it that you could force yourself to roam on. And it had
40 megahertz band 41.
Yep. And it had another, I want to say 5x5 channel of band 26.
Yeah.
And I think there was something else on there, but I don't know Sprint's bands that well.
And that Sprint site had like 10 people on it. So it was all types of speed on there, right?
Well, the thing is that I don't have, like, I was always a T-Mobile customer, so when it came to force myself to roam, I would always get connected to that band 26 connection, and that band 26 connection was very congested. Like, the ping times were terrible. But on the off chance in other places where I got the band 40 by 40, I was seeing like 250, 400 megabits sometimes, better than what the N41 performance that I've been seeing from T-Mobile.
Really?
Yeah, it was a stark difference. And yeah, I mean, basically, I stick with T-Mobile because their plans and their customer service is great, and I know the network will improve. In fact, I will also just say the network is significantly better than it used to be. But the problem in my market is that T-Mobile is cheaping out. They're not improving the backhaul on sites that they do upgrade. And it's very apparent because the speeds that we're seeing on some of these cell sites where they have the 80 by 80 channels of N41 or 60 by 60 aren't living up to the speeds that you're supposed to be seeing, right? And then on other sites where they have tons of usable spectrum, like back in my hometown, small town, like 700 people, they only have like band 2 deployed and then like N41 5x5 or band 12 5x5, which you might think for a small town of 700 people ain't bad. But the problem is there's a racetrack just up the road. And during the summers pre-COVID, we would have times where like 10,000, 20,000 people would be going up to this racetrack. And I'm not joking when I say this, Sneed.
3G. 3G.
There's no
it went
3G.
to 3G. Oh.
No, the backup is an edge connection, 2G.
Oh,
But Sneed, I'm not joking when I say this. When that happens, the congestion's so bad that your phone literally just disconnects from the network. You don't even have a little icon in the right-hand corner. Calls will drop, text will send.
It's 911. That's it.
Yep.
Yeah.
That's crazy. Condolences to our friend Dennis here. I will say my hot take on the unlimited postpaid priority data, I have two sides. We'll have to see how this pans out, but I'm a little optimistic. This is the optimistic side of me, thinking that T-Mobile has run the numbers. They know the average data usage of their consumers, and I think they're betting the number of people who will switch and the number of people who will actually utilize the unlimited priority data will be not enough to significantly impact the network. I could be wrong.
Stetson,
that's my optimistic take.
It only takes a small percentage of people to, because you got to understand, a small percentage of people are already the ones that use up the most of the bandwidth, right? Like it only takes, like, we'll say if a cell site can handle 100 people, it only takes like 10 people that are super data hogs that are just consuming all that bandwidth to impact the rest of the experience for everybody else, right? It's not like with your home internet, right, Stetson, where you have fiber,
right,
you have your own dedicated bandwidth. I mean, this is all being shared. There's only so much pie to go around, and with current infrastructure, with the way it is, it just ain't going to happen unless they somehow densify their network in a very rapid manner to spread that load around.
Yeah, that's what I'm hoping, is that they rapidly deploy their 2.5 gigahertz, N41, to help improve the capacity of their network. I mean, we'll have to see. The plan went live literally yesterday, the 24th. So, we'll have to see how this impacts the performance of the network. But actually, speaking of network performance, I think this is a good segue into T-Mobile Home Internet, which, Sneed, you've been testing out. You've been producing some great content on your channel about T-Mobile Home Internet. Again, Sneed's channel is linked down below for anyone interested in checking that out, getting more details about his experience. But what have you been seeing with your T-Mobile Home Internet? I feel like you got it. You were really excited about it. You ditched what you were with Cox before, I think? Spectrum. You ditched them.
I was with Cox Communications for a couple of years, yeah.
You were excited about this. So what happened, and how has your experience evolved with T-Mobile Home Internet?
So this is month number 2. Month number 1 was fantastic. It was incredible. I used somewhere in the neighborhood of 850 gigs of usage that first month. It was great. I never fell back to any type of deprio. When I tested a single connection on my gateway, I have the Nokia, the gray one, the 5G gateway. When I tested on one device, I was getting 130 megabits per second. The site I'm connecting to is a Sprint Keep site that has 20 megahertz of band 41, 10 megahertz of band 25, and 3 megahertz of band 26. So Dennis was talking about band 26, 5 megahertz. I'm living the 3 megahertz life, if you've ever heard of such a thing. All right, so anyways, I'm always connected to band 41. It doesn't aggregate carriers at that site, right? It's just whatever your RSRP is sitting good at, signal strength, it'll lock onto that. So if I can keep the RSRP around like 90, the band 41 is great. All right, so everything was cool for the first month. It was incredible. I was committed. I'm like, that's it. I'm just going to auto pay this $50, call it a day. It'll hold me down until I get AT&T fiber installed in the neighborhood. I don't know what happened. I don't know what I did. I don't know who I made mad. But now when I speed test, it goes up to 60 and then it comes down to 40. Shoots back up to 60 and goes down to 30. It does this weird seesaw thing. Whenever I speed test, it's showing an active throttle. So the T-Mobile home internet product is literally designed to give you 50 megabits per second. If they have more, they give it to you. So if it's an N41 site, if it's a newly upgraded, N71 band 2, if you got bandwidth there, they'll give it to you. My site doesn't have it. My site used to be 40 megahertz band 41. They tuned it down to 20.
Why?
I don't know. And, I did a little digging, and I have a couple of friends, and they looked around at some future upgrades in the area. My site that I'm connected to is being decommissioned. That gear will be moved over to a tower site that's 1.8 miles away. So I'm going from 0.3 miles to 1.8. The N41 won't reach. It's going to get N41, but it's going to be almost 2 miles away. So it doesn't exist in my world.
That's terrible.
I'm going from basically a dedicated 40 megahertz band 41, like nobody's on it, right? And now I'm going to maybe a band 2 and a band 12 and a band 71. So maybe.
So the thing I don't understand with T-Mobile is like, why? Like, I get you're going to say it's cost. It always comes down to cost. But like, why in the world would they decommission that site instead of putting their own equipment on there and having that density? It's what they need. If N41 doesn't propagate that far, right, you need to have, you should have 3 sites, all being redundant and covering those edge cases. Because I'll tell you, man, small cells, please. Yes, please. But I'll tell you, man, one of the biggest problems I have with T-Mobile is, in my small town I was telling you about from before, if that one macro site goes down, if the power goes down in that area, there's no backup generator. The site just goes down. There's no T-Mobile service, period. AT&T does not have that problem. My signal might not always be the strongest, but I promise you there's always 3 towers covering a specific area. Verizon, same case, right? It's 2, 3, 4 sites. Why in the world is T-Mobile doing that?
You said you didn't want to hear it. I'm not going to say it.
Just say it. You can't hurt my feelings.
Hey, I got some sayings. I don't know, man. You got to make cellular entertaining. So I got some sayings. All right, so one of them is friends don't let friends media tech. I can't stand those processors, so that's one of them. But another one is embrace the grind. Carriers are moving towards 5G. You must densify the network. You cannot properly network with macro sites only. Cities don't let you put a macro site every quarter mile. They simply will not. They must embrace the grind and increase their tower density, and they must densify with small cells as well. They just spent a bunch of money on C-band. They will have to use small cells at least by then. But I'm concerned because situations like Dennis's, he's basically saying, I got a tower site every couple of miles, which if it was low band, it would be cool. If this was 2010 and our data needs were 10 megabits per second required, it'd be a different story, but we need capacity now. I mean, there are people, 1080p video is like a standard in my book. I don't think 480p is legitimate anymore. They're selling phones with 4K displays now. You can't have a 480p plan if you're going to be paying premium pricing. So the network has to match. And unfortunately, one of the problems I have with T-Mobile, it's the only carrier that I cannot mobile live stream from. And it's because of a tower density issue. The handoffs are atrocious. Literally, I disconnect 3, 4, sometimes 5 times within an 8-mile or a 10-mile trip, which basically means I'm dropping every tower handoff.
Wow.
And
That's amazing.
And the thing is, oh, sorry.
Well, I was just going to say, because you're using what, Visible's $25 unlimited plan to live stream Sneed, and that's doing it because Verizon has the tower density?
I have live stream in the middle of nowhere with Visible, and it looked tremendous. Never a drop, nothing. I mean, there were 2 multiple mile stretches where T-Mobile had no signal. Nothing. No call, no text, X, nothing. That was 2 times for more than 2 miles each. And AT&T and Verizon held the entire way. Always LTE or 5G. In fact, for most of the trip, I was always connected to midband from both Verizon and AT&T, which tells you about their tower density.
What phone were you using?
An iPhone XS Max.
Okay, so that's like still super recent. It's got all the bands you pretty much need. It's not going to be like a budget phone lacking key bands.
I'll tell you why it was actually a harder test than what you think. Intel modems are trash. So actually, that was a true test of tower density. A phone that does not have a good cellular modem.
Yeah.
And I was just going to say, the thing I wanted to say is that's especially weird to me is that if T-Mobile wants to increase the revenue, if they want to play with the big boys, they got to have density. Like, the government is not going to do a FirstNet deal with T-Mobile if they don't have.
I wish they would have. I wish they got that FirstNet deal, Dennis.
Are you serious?
I really did. Yeah.
Why would
they wouldn't have needed this merger, right? They would have had the most coverage in America. They would have been paid to build out their low band. It would have been great for competition without losing Sprint.
Do you know what I think would have happened?
Well, go ahead.
I think T-Mobile would have been more like a Frontier, where they took the government money, failed on the execution, and then would have started crying about being bankrupt.
Dang. I always looked at T-Mobile as scrappy and willing to compete. So I'd like to think that wouldn't have happened, but I mean, it's telecom. I mean, dude, you got a point. I know, man.
Dude, you've seen Carlos's pictures. Like, remember he sent a picture of the back. Like, we saw a site where AT&T's equipment on it, Verizon and T-Mobile's equipment was on it. AT&T had this nice cabinet, right? A whole separate building to make sure that the backup power and stuff doesn't get like damaged, right? Verizon, same thing. T-Mobile has their equipment staying on the floor or has like temporary generators that just get pulled away.
Dennis, I think that's why they didn't get the FirstNet. You literally have to change the way that you network when you get a first responder network. Like, you have to put backup generators at every single site. There's no compromise. You have to cover 100% of the U.S. population.
Yeah.
There's no compromise. There's no wiggle room. There's nothing.
Yeah, and I was gonna say, like, and T-Mobile has a terrible track record with 911 calls. They've already been sued before because their network.
I think it's a $20,000 fine for every 911 call that has to be rerouted through another carrier.
Yeah.
Jeez.
And I was gonna say it's especially telling too, because like AT&T has the one-touch policy. They go to a site once and they do everything they got to do, and when they're done, not only do they send a text message out to the native, like, around the people around, but it's a noticeable difference. I mean, you can tell there was work done. T-Mobile, I call them, because I'm having no service again and relying on Wi-Fi calling. And when they're done with the cell site, there's no change in my experience. If anything, sometimes it's a worse experience after they're done doing their work.
So what they're probably doing is they're probably moving the antennas away from you. So you end up being between sectors and you're getting like band 12 only. It's a horrible thing. Now, to go back to that AT&T situation with FirstNet, so they climb a tower, they upgrade it with everything. 10 megahertz band 14, 10 megahertz of band 30. It's an incredible capacity upgrade, and they do the backhaul. So you're getting an improved fiber optic upgrade. So you're probably going to go from a 50 to 60 megabit experience to like 300 overnight.
Yeah, I'm going to run a speed test here just to give you some perspective. So I showed you my T-Mobile performance from before, Sneed. I want to show you my performance with AT&T in my market. It's truly out of this world. Like, and I got to say one thing. My apartment, like, I'm on the bottom floor, so my service isn't that great. I only got like maybe 1 bars, mind you. So this is going to be really telling when I show you these speed retest results here. Because if I step outside, it's a lot better. Oh, is there a glare? Okay. I'm sorry. Oh, there's a bad glare. There we go.
Looks like Dennis is getting 60, almost 70 megabits per second down on AT&T while he's running the speed test live.
Yeah.
And upload is around 12. That's still substantially faster than T-Mobile, especially in the same spot.
And this is a bad test. I've had faster tests shown on this podcast, and if I step outside, I kid you not, Sneed, this will be 200 down in like 20.
I was gonna say you're in a peak time also. I mean, the usage is starting to kick up here in the evening, so I think you're doing well.
Yeah,
doing well.
AT&T is solid.
I want to bring up a comment from live stream viewer Low Key commenting that T-Mobile is so far behind in coverage, no way could they meet their FirstNet deadline. It would take them years, many years. Low Key, thank you for your channel support. We truly appreciate it. And thank you for your comment. Yeah, I think Sneed's perspective is that the FirstNet deal could have potentially given a body to hold T-Mobile accountable and motivated them to properly build out the network. And I think other perspectives are that, T-Mobile just wouldn't have executed on that. As Dennis has shown from his testing, their cell sites could use a lot of time and attention to properly upgrade them, as what we've seen with AT&T. So, it could have gone either way. I think it makes sense why we went with AT&T for the FirstNet deal with their one-touch policy and how they've been treating their cell sites. Actually...
Sneed, if you had your way, like if you did have your way and T-Mobile got the FirstNet deal and we still had Sprint around, what would Sprint do? They'd still be in the same terrible situation, right? No capital to invest. Like,
Sprint would have probably dominated a couple of dozen of 5G markets where they could afford the best fiber backhaul, where they could properly cluster 10 to 20 tower sites. Like when you do that, you create really sizable upgrades and network experience. The 9 markets that they launched 5G in that spring and summer of 2019 still to this day, for the most part, perform better than any 5G market that T-Mobile has done. So, and that's 2 years ago. So it shows you that Sprint knew how to do it. They knew what they wanted to do. The struggle was always going to be with the money situation because they were indebted going back to the Netflix acquisition or the Nextel acquisition and the WiMAX. Well, the WiMAX, the situation with that was everybody went LTE and they tried to go WiMAX. So that was a setback. But really the problem dates back to Gary Forsey as CEO when he tried to make the Nextel acquisition. It didn't work. Too much incompatibility. It was a huge setback. And the debt load, they never recovered. So take that bad acquisition, poor network execution, and just bad management, disconnection amongst management. Teams aren't really communicating well. You're trending down. There's negative rapport at the workplace. Do you know that Marcelo, the CEO, and then Michelle Combs, the last CEO, didn't even hold earnings calls for the last 2 years of Sprint's operations?
I did not know that.
They literally just put out emails and blurbs. They couldn't even face their employees. That's depressing. It was over. Masayoshi Son in Japan and SoftBank, they wanted no parts of it. It was all terrible. And those poor people that worked at Sprint, some of them were told, "Oh, you got a seat at the table at T-Mobile." They rifted 10,000 people the first month.
I do remember that.
So Sprint employees got dragged through the mud, dude. The merger, we talk about the incredible network potential, which is true, but a merger is a merger. Always.
I guess my point was more like Sprint was going to die anyway, so at least this way we kind of got almost like, what's that bird that keeps respawning and never actually dies? What's the bird?
Like Phoenix?
Yeah, Phoenix. We had the Phoenix effect, right? Like Dish, I'm not holding my breath too much, but at least Dish is a fresh start. They can make a network where it's actually modernized. And there's been rumors about them partnering with Amazon, which we talked about on last week's show, which actually gets me excited because I trust Amazon. They got the money, and I trust their ability to execute, and there's a lot of cohesion and synergy there. And if that actually happened, I would argue that Dish has the possibility to actually be a better network than T-Mobile ever could if they have Amazon backing them.
Agreed. They're dangerous with Amazon.
But
yeah,
we got. I was gonna say we got a little off topic. I want to circle back to the home internet piece, Sneed. So you were so I watched your video, right? Your T-Mobile experience got worse, and now you know what's happening with the tower because you're inside scoop. So does that mean you're gonna go back to Cox? You're done with cable entirely.
Cox is garbage can resin.
I'm just so surprised.
It is literally garbage residue. It is the worst of the worst. I would rather burn my last dollar over a candle than to spend it with Cox Communications.
What did
they are
do?
Trash.
What did they do that made you feel that way, Sneak? Because I felt that way about Verizon. That's why I never went with them. What did they do to make you feel that way?
So I had Cox when I lived in a 2-bedroom apartment, before we bought our home. And it was great. And the reason why it was great is because they invested in infrastructure that was modernized and upgraded. Now, the last thing that cable providers want to do is upgrade and spend money. They don't think long-term. It's always about not wanting to spend, right? It's about shareholders, and it's about bottom line and profitability. Spend the least, give them the least. So you're not trying to really please your customers. You're not really future-proofing anything. It's coax. It's not fiber, right? So it's... Anyways, I get to this house. It's trash from day one. I've been a customer at my old place, so all I did was change my address. On the account, it just shows address change. Nothing changed, right? So, because I literally moved from one side of the city to the other. So it was the same provider. Everything was cool. I said, look, there's something wrong. People are telling me on my live streams I sound like Optimus Prime trying to transmit a signal from frickin' Cybertron, And they're like, oh, everything looks good. They're testing the signal. They can remotely see numbers. I'm like, it's not good. Send somebody out here to just take a look at this box, right outside of my house. The thing's right there. They won't send anybody. They told me to have somebody come out and test and check. I needed to pay $109. To fix their problem. It was going to cost me money. So I refused. I said, I will not give you any money. I am paying a bill. I need service. So I made an FCC complaint. I mean, this went on for a year. No credits, no repairs, no promises of anything. They keep telling me everything is fine. I have a friend who works for a different cable provider in another state. He says, show me your numbers. Let's look through the metrics.
Yeah, the DOCSIS channels.
Start looking through everything. He's like, you got a bad drop. I call him up. I'm like, look, man, I got a bad drop. I don't even know what a drop is at the time. I'm like, man, I got a bad drop. Send somebody out here, right?
Yeah.
They're like, oh, you don't know. Da-da-da. I said, listen, I've been having problems for this entire year. You've been taking my money every month. Come and replace this drop. $109 is what it's going to take to get him out there. I said, come get your crap. It'll be in the tree lawn. I don't want it. And I want my money back. So they finally came after I filed an FCC complaint because they were negligent to the errors. They were refusing to send somebody out on their failure. That's really the issue, Dennis.
Yeah.
It's not the fact that there was a problem. It's the fact that there was a problem, but they would not acknowledge it. So they were making me suffer. I'm a school teacher, Dennis. We're doing Zoom meetings. I got all these kids. They're like, hey, you okay out there? You sound like you're, I'm like, I can't teach like this.
No, that sounds like the cable that I know. I was going to say their product, when it works, is great, but their customer service is always lacking. And that's true with Armstrong. You might have heard of Armstrong. And you obviously know who Comcast is, which I've told Stetson behind the scenes. I have a mixed bag of chips with them, right? Like, I haven't had anything that bad yet, Sneed. But it's always like pulling teeth if a problem needs to be resolved. And, I mean,
But look what I had to do, Dennis. I had to get the FCC involved. The liaison called me. We're going to make it better. She's such a nice lady. I'm like, look, lady, it's over. You won't get $1. She's like, oh, no, they're going to come out and fix it. I had guys in my front yard, bro. I had 8 trucks out there one day. Yeah. I'm like, I don't care. Leave my house alone. It's too late. It's over.
So AT&T Fiber's coming out then? Like, that's a confirmed?
Yeah, that is confirmed.
Good for you, man. I don't know if you've heard, but I'm buying a house, and one of the things I looked for was for FiOS. Yeah. So as soon as I move in, I'm going to have FiOS. And I'm gonna get the gig symmetrical. I'm mad that I'm not already moved in because they had a deal going on a little bit ago where it was like $75. You got gig symmetrical, and they got a year of PlayStation Plus. You got their free streaming service. You got the Discovery Plus for a year, and I think there was something else too that you got with it. $100 Visa card, I think.
Dennis, I say reach, man. Reach back into the cookie jar and see if they'll extend that to you, man. They might do it. They might. Verizon's a little different now than they were a few years ago.
I was going to say, listen, I'm only getting Fios because I want the symmetrical upload. If Comcast offered higher upload, I would still take them because I just want to say something real quick, Sneed. My experience with cable has been a little bit different. To me, cable internet is like Jesus coming down compared to the DSL and the dial-up that I lived through. Like, to me, cable is great. And I also want to say that I'm lucky. Pittsburgh is a market where Comcast does upgrades all the time. Like, their network does have fiber. I can see where the fiber terminates in this green pedestal outside of my apartment complex and then changes over to coax for the last like interconnects.
But you're still getting basically gig on both sides, right?
No. They offer asymmetrical. So I downgraded to what's called Blast in my market, which is 300 down and 10 up because I needed to save some money. But they over provisioned by 10%. So I see like 360 down and like 12 up. Formerly, I had gigabit from them, which is 1,200 megabits per second down and 35 up, and I was seeing 1,400 down and 41 up, with ping times averaging in the range from like 8 milliseconds to 13 milliseconds. And it's very it's very good. Like they meet what they say they're going to sell you. It's expensive as all hell, and it's not as good as symmetrical, but I mean it's better than a lot of other things that people in America have to deal with. Like, it's definitely better than T-Mobile's home internet, in my opinion, from my experience. It's definitely better than satellite, despite Starlink being exciting. And it's definitely better than DSL, which I'm sure you've used before at some point.
Many, many years ago, we were a DSL, yes.
But
Sweet.
I'm sorry for making you feel that way. I was just so curious why you felt that way about Cox.
Yeah.
You should look into business, maybe. Business. A lot of times areas will have more business providers, and business providers typically you pay a premium, but you usually get like same-day tech visits and stuff like that because you're a business. Maybe look into that.
I got the AT&T fiber coming. I guess I can wait.
He's holding out. He's holding out.
How soon?
Probably going to be the move.
They're saying the latest November. I think it's on a list of projects within the area. So it's whenever the techs get around to finishing whatever's top priority, then they're gonna hang the fiber. So.
I mean, Sneed, I'll just tell you one thing that will blow your mind for a sec. If I didn't get the job that I got and moved out this way, and I was still living in my hometown, I was this close to spending $20,000 to have a metro grade fiber line that would truly be my own dedicated fiber line. It would have been 150 down, 150 up. I was going to be paying $400 a month for fiber. Which, Stetson, you're shaking your head, but remember that company that's out in my small town was charging my parents like $360 for like TV and internet, right?
Wow.
All right. Wow. Jeez.
So I mean, it wouldn't have been that much. That wouldn't have been that much of a stretch to go from that to $400 for good internet. And this is the best internet you can have with a static IP address and stuff. But anyway, that's not going to happen. And I'll let us move on. Stetson, I know you have another topic you want to talk about.
Yeah, I was hoping to. Sneed, I don't know if you have to get going. Let me know.
We're good, bro.
But
We're good.
I wanted to touch on the C-band auction, actually. And this is where, Sneed, I feel like your channel accelerates. Like, anyone looking for more information following this auction and this news, again, definitely be sure to check out Sneed's channel in the description. But we saw this finish up. The C-band auction, for those of you who may have been unfamiliar, is where the U.S. government was auctioning off C-band spectrum. This is 3.7 to 3.98 gigahertz. And this is really going to build out the mid-band 5G networks from the major providers. There's two parts to this auction. The first part is that bands, I think it was like A1 through A5.
So you got Block A, right?
Block A.
Mm-hmm.
These are going to be ready by end of 2021 and hopefully deployed early 2022. And then blocks B and C, these are going to be decommissioned in 2023 and available for build out then. So kind of a two-part thing here. So Carriers had to be strategic about which frequency blocks they wanted to bid on first. So, Sneed, I feel like you've been following this really closely. What did we kind of see from these results of the C-band auction? And yeah, how do you think these results will kind of dictate or give us a clue onto how the networks or the carriers will build out their networks going forward?
So this is the capacity that will usher in 5G, like legitimately. Not to discount what ultra wideband can do. Ultra wideband is true ultra capacity. It's the most effortless way to get gigabit speed is with ultra wideband. But the thing about the C-band is this spectrum is so clean and easily deployed in this traditional sense that you take this tower density build out approach. Carriers are going to use a collection of small cells and macro sites to just get a tower site, so it's a seamless transition from one to the next. But you're literally going to be going from site to site getting gigabit speed, depending on the width of these channels. Verizon does not own a single market of C-band with less than 140 megahertz. That is absurd. They literally, there's a story, and they say that this is a true story. The person reporting it is trusted. He said that in the Block A auction, which would have been the first, I forget how many rounds it was, everybody was bidding, and all of a sudden Verizon just shut it all down. U.S. U.S. Cellular walked away, Dish walked away, AT&T had to walk away, T-Mobile walked. They all they're like, we're out. Literally, Verizon bought the entire block, which is 100 megahertz of 100 megahertz. They told everybody to go sit down. This is ours. Which is incredible because the value of that spectrum is so high. It's almost as if they were acting like there was no midband ever again. It was incredible.
That might be the case.
It's easy to go to the politics and say things are going to be different now, right?
Because you saw the FCC, right? They were talking about making the rest of the they were talking about not commercial use, but allowing the spectrum to be used for schools and different projects, if I remember correctly in the news, right?
Yeah, so the CBRS situation, right, that was always part of it, the 2.5 gigahertz that you're mentioning, right? It was always for education purposes. It'll be very democratically distributed, right? There's going to be a lot of spectrum sharing in those bands. So for education, for the incumbents, for government, DOD, there's a lot of stuff there. But this is clean and ready to deploy. They put 280 megahertz to commercial.
Yeah.
Right. So that's why, and Verizon has been spectrum starved sub 6 gigahertz. And, I've already, there are a handful of people I follow on Twitter that I trust with situations like this. And they are saying Verizon will never get return of investment on this. I respect them. And I think they're wrong.
Yeah, I 100% disagree. This spectrum, they need it, and it's going to provide immediate returns to them. I mean, first off, I just want to give kudos to Verizon. The fact that they were able to do what they've been able to do with the limited resources that they had as far as spectrum is incredible.
It's incredible. Yeah.
And now that infrastructure's already been in place, this should be a cakewalk for Verizon. Because outside of the permanent waiting, the actual job of getting a tech out there to actually climb the pole and get the equipment on there should be pretty quick, maybe a week's worth of time.
Part of that's because of the FCC's new laws. They literally made it so carriers can not be told no from municipalities. If Verizon wants to knock on your door and say, "Hi, we're here to build something in your front yard," sorry, get out of the way.
I mean, I'm down for it. I'm down for it because let's be real here. I told you I grew up in a rural small community, and those people, right? The ones that think 5G is gonna give them cancer or whatever the thing is, right?
Where's my hat? Hold on. Where's my tinfoil?
You can't. I mean, I'm all about freedom and whatnot, but you can't let them impede necessary things, right? This is gonna be a wonderful thing. I look forward to seeing what they're able to do with this CBRS spectrum. But I'm also of the opinion that I think it's going to be a long time before we see another auction, because I don't see the government giving up the spectrum now that Trump's out and because he was the one that was pushing for it, right? He was I want to beat China in 5G. Biden's administration doesn't seem to have that same level of aggressiveness, and I don't see them being as buddy with private enterprises, right? I feel like they're going to take more of a different approach where the government's going to be taking the leading role of deployment, which might have its own benefits, honestly.
Well, I don't want to hear somebody complaining about cell phone coverage and capacity when they're telling people, nope, you can't put a tower there. That's ugly. Don't do that. You just can't have your cake and eat it too.
Yeah.
Hey, take your time, but hurry up. It's hypocrisy. You can't expect improved, services, and you don't want infrastructure. It just doesn't work that way. It's not magic. It's networking.
T-Mobile has an easy form that you can fill out. So because my town was so small, I would go to the town hall meetings, and I made a suggestion. There was an old church that got burnt down. It was a Catholic church. So the county owned that piece of property. I made a suggestion that we should sell off the land and lease it to T-Mobile to put a cell site down to generate money for the community. And, I mean, T-Mobile didn't bite on it, but they had a very easy form that you could fill out. I feel like if other carriers did stuff like that, there's plenty of land for these small rural communities that would be easily given up for super cheap, because these communities want good internet and they want to get a little bit of money so they can invest with things like the snow, for example. Like the place I grew up at was so low income as far as tax revenue that could be generated that we couldn't even afford to have someone shovel the snow off the roads. Literally, there was a guy that just put like a little plow on the front of his F-150 and would do it for free just to help out the town. But we don't even have anybody to, like, salt the roads or nothing. It's wild.
Wow. Yeah. Basic.
That is wild.
Pretty easy living, right? Easy going.
Easygoing guy, but
Yeah.
I'm sorry. Go ahead with the main topic. I didn't mean to get us sidetracked. I'm sorry.
No, it's great. I love these little like side tangents. But yeah, we saw huge spending. I think Verizon spent $45.5 billion, AT&T $23.4 billion, T-Mobile $9.3 billion. Huge investments, and it sounds like from Verizon's desire to get the C-band in the Block A so they could rapidly deploy it and get this out earlier. I think this is a sign that their network is congested. They're going to try and alleviate this congestion, and I think C-band is their kind of answer to that, where they're going to try and get it up, increase that network capacity. And something I also saw is because of the frequency of C-band, you actually need the high-density tower sites, something that T-Mobile is struggling a little bit with right now, but Verizon is executing very well on. They have their millimeter wave spectrum. Like, they've been deploying that, really doing a great job with tower density. So I guess my question going forward is, Verizon's going to be building out their C-band. T-Mobile owns the 2.5 gigahertz spectrum they got from the Sprint merger. How do you think the C-band performance will compare with the 2.5 gigahertz, and how do you think these strategies will differ when rolling out those frequencies?
For the average consumer, they're going to perform similarly. They're going to be high-capacity mid-band channels. So, Verizon will have 140, 160 megahertz, in some markets 180, 200, which is incredible. There are some places where T-Mobile has 140 and 160 megahertz of N41. So they're going to be very similar. The one thing that I don't see from T-Mobile, though, and this is a T-Mobile thing, is they're not doing small cells, which begs the question, is there going to be the density that is really required to make it a game changer that's going to be a resilient channel? Because they give the example of the rubber band with bandwidth, right? Like everybody starts to pull, right? If you have 5 tower sites spread over 5 miles and all have N41, that's a lot of capacity for many people. If you have 3 tower sites there in that same geographical range, there's more pull on each site, right? So having the fiber at each site and having multiple sites, and it's just a better situation, and small cells do so much. Like Verizon proved that small cells can actually be just as valuable as the spectrum itself, right? So it's like guns and ammunition. You can have guns but no ammo, right? And you can have ammo but no guns, right? You need both, and that's how I compare these tower sites. Like Verizon has the sites but no ammunition, right? They're spectrum starved. You know what I'm saying? And T-Mobile's the other way. They got the ammunition, no guns, right? So it's like, I always thought like the advantage that T-Mobile has in spectrum is only meaningful if the tower density improves. But it's changing as the N41 upgrades happen. We're seeing the manifestation of the speeds. You're going to start to see consecutive sites getting the N41, 600 megabytes or megabits per second all over these segments of towns. That's where they could really do the home internet effectively, and that's where the capacity is. So C-band will do the same.
Do you
And,
think
we talked about the monetization. Verizon's going to monetize everything through that band.
Do you think Verizon's going to change their deployment a little bit now that they just spent all that money at the C-band auction? Do you think
it'll get deeper. They'll densify even more.
Oh no, I meant. Do you think they'll slow down their millimeter wave deployment and focus just on the mid-band?
No, they said that they built out 15,000 sites last year. They want to do another 15,000 this year. Or I think they said 17,000. Or they want to be at like 40,000 millimeter wave sites by the year's end.
Wow. Where are they going to get
40
the
or
capital?
50,000. Their capex is approaching $20 billion.
Yeah, but aren't they like over? How much debt do they have now? Aren't they like over $100 billion?
Yeah, they've been over $100 billion. Even before C-band, I think they're at 120, 117.
Jesus.
But they don't care. It's almost like in every business in the world, debt is a problem, except in telecom. Apparently, that doesn't. It's not a thing.
It's the solution.
Yeah, AT&T's like 170 billion in debt before C-band, right? Because they acquired Time Warner, which was 100 billion, and then they acquired DirecTV. Horrible, by the way. That was 50 billion plus 25 billion in debt. So that was like 70 billion or something. It's incredible. So they're in at least 200 billion in debt with C-band. Verizon's probably going to push similar. They got to be 170. And T-Mobile's probably broke the century mark now. The only difference between T-Mobile and the rest of them, Verizon has Fios. Verizon has a bigger business in terms of fiber. They also own a lot of their own infrastructure. They have some other little things too, right? HuffPost, Bloomberg, Yahoo. They got some other stuff there, and they have the Fios. So they've got some more business. AT&T is a conglomerate. They're huge. So like debt it doesn't seem to matter in a business where there's only 3 companies. Who's going to come and take your spot? There's nobody. It's almost like the market is run by such big companies. You can like yell from the bottom. You're like, hey, take me seriously. No, they just stomp you out. Like, how's Dish going to do it? They're going to need Amazon. That's it.
I just had a thought, by the way. So one of the main problems we keep talking about is like this need to deploy these towers, right? The need to densify for 5G. Why do you think companies maybe haven't talked to each other? Like, why do you think T-Mobile and AT&T, for example, since they've worked together in the past with roaming, why don't you think they've talked to each other and be like, you know what? Let's share each other's access to the towers. I'll pay you this much for my customers going your network, and you do vice versa. It'd be a mutually beneficial thing, right? You could eliminate the need to overlap in certain areas of coverage since you can rely on each other mutually, and you now have more bandwidth to go around because you have more spectrum overall for the customers in that same footprint. Is there something that would stop that?
In our country, here in the U.S., the carriers distinguish themselves in one way: self-proclaimed network performance. They distinguish themselves by that. If you watch all the commercials, it's always fastest 5G, most 5G, fastest LTE, most LTE, largest LTE. Go back 5, 6, 7 years to the beginning of the LTE era. That's all you ever heard from Verizon. The most reliable network, the largest LTE network. They had to market it. So roaming on each other's networks and sharing sites and sharing spectrum, it goes against every single thing that these carriers have been doing for the last 20 years, 30 years,
but
trying to distinguish themselves.
It eliminates one of their biggest expenses, and there's other ways to differentiate, whether it be customer service, what's included.
100%. I agree with you. You're right. Yeah. You could literally just fight over pricing and features, and we would be like salivating. Like we would have everything, right? But that's what they do. And the biggest problem, Dennis, is Pittsburgh's not like Cleveland, and Cleveland's not like Longmont. Each carrier's spending different in each market, which means each carrier performs different in each market. There's no uniformity,
I just had that thought as well because when I lived in Korea for a month, I don't know if you know this, but like the 2 carriers, they only have 2. They share all the same infrastructure.
Same thing in China. Same thing. Yeah.
It's just so
they
much
have
more
the ultimate
efficient.
networking. It's huge.
Yeah, it's just more efficient.
Yeah, they win.
But
All right,
Sneed, did you get your? I'm sorry, Stetson. I was going to go on to the next topic about his S21. I was going to ask if you got it.
Oh, yeah.
yet.
So before we do that, we actually had 2 Patreon questions that
Sure.
are related to this topic. So Mark Hoyle asks, first of all, Mark, thank you so much for your support. Mark asked, regarding to the C-band auction, by what month in 2022 will the top 20 markets have C-band deployed by Verizon? And I think it's kind of impossible for us to know, but I think we can try and get some educated guesses. I would say that based on Verizon's spend, they really want to get this deployed probably as quickly as possible. And I would say, I don't know, maybe end of a reasonable timeline based on when the C-band spectrum will be available and by their deployment. What do you guys think?
I think you're right. I think by May, June, we'll see substantial upgrades.
Yeah.
The Verizon network will be unrecognizable by year's end.
I think, yeah, Verizon's going big on this. And I think similar to Ahmed's obsession at US Mobile at providing amazing customer support and experience, I think Verizon's obsessed with building the best network. And I think they're kind of showing that with their investments. We had another question from Chame. He asked, with all their spectrum holdings, will Verizon eventually offer millimeter wave on all plans? Right now, it is limited to just the top tier postpaid plans, not available with Verizon Start Unlimited, and there's only one prepaid plan that has it. What do you guys think about this? Is that something Verizon will bring to their plans? Will they do a similar rollout with mid-band 5G as well and restrict access to certain plans? What do you think?
Nah, this is going to be the capacity layer that they've needed. This will be available to all customers. This is just what the network is going to be.
Yep. Okay.
Right? That's all it's going to be this new capacity network.
So everyone's going to get mid-band 5G and then millimeter wave. Do you think they're going to make that available? They made it available to Visible and capped at 200 megabits per second. I'm honestly unsure about this because, they're kind of promoting it as a premium feature. Not everyone's going to need millimeter wave access. And if they deploy mid-band 5G in the markets that have millimeter wave, those customers probably don't even need millimeter wave access. So are they going to keep it exclusive? What do you guys think?
They shouldn't. I mean, if you're spending all this money to deploy these small cell networks, you should let all your customers utilize it because it frees up spectrum for the mid-band for the customers that aren't next to a small cell like that. It'd be super stupid and a waste of money to not allow them to have access. Because all the cost is up front. Like, you already spent the money to deploy the fiber to that, say, light pole, right? You're going to be paying the same expense to maintain it, whether it's one person that uses it or 100 people that use it. The difference being is that if 100 people are using it, means that freed up more space on that macro site. Sneed, your thoughts?
I think that's 100% true. The millimeter wave does two things. It offers an incredible capacity slice, and it's going to alleviate any pressure that might make its way onto the mid-band and the low band. That's the proper way to network, is redundancy in tower sites and capacity on multiple levels. And the ultra-wideband will be a big piece of what they do with enterprise, in business, gaming. You could see all these different scenarios, new use cases as well, the IoT piece. And, it will help out in a tremendous way. We're talking about 800, 1200 megahertz, combinations and aggregations. We're going to see 4 gig speed, 6 gig, 8 gig speed within the next year or two. It's incredible. So yeah, they say they want to deploy and they want to continue to build out. I think at some point it's all going to be open season. You're not going to see like a visible restriction or a prepaid restriction or even a plan restriction. Maybe with the 4G LTE only phones, that's the only restriction because you don't have 5G. But I think all phones that have 5G will have, open season.
Do you think, on the topic of 4G LTE, do you think that once 5G is actually widely deployed, we'll see something similar happen? Will they'll start cutting down on the channels that are allocated to LTE? So instead of, say, having 20 by 20 band 4, we might see the channel go down to band like 10 by 10, and then 10 megahertz that goes over to the 5G network.
Verizon's doing DSS, so that'll never happen on the Verizon side.
But I'm talking about like for standalone.
Well, what it's going to probably look like, so each carrier is doing something a little bit different. They're going to do basically the same thing as with 3G, right? The channels got skinnier and skinnier, right?
Yeah.
They started pulling it away and allocating it to the newer tech. I mean, it's going to happen inevitably. When does it happen? I mean, LTE is not going away for a long time. As long as the FCC continues to auction spectrum, you don't need to decom the LTE. You know, if you think about it, right? That's been the trouble. The only reason that, AT&T had to, figure something out was like, okay, well, we're going to go from 3G band 5. We're going to move all that over to band 5 5G, right? And it's not a big channel. It's very, very skinny channel. So no capacity, though. So as long as the FCC auctions spectrum, we'll have dedicated 5G channels. Leave the LTE alone until you're ready to get all your customers out of LTE devices.
Sweet. And I think, maybe we can segue into the final quick topic for this show and then call it a day. But Sneed, I've been wondering if you actually got your S21 yet. I know you've been working on this order, trying to do this trade-in deal.
Yeah, I haven't gotten it yet. I'm hoping to get it soon. I've been hearing mixed reviews on it, so I'm really intrigued. Some people have told me that the cellular performance on it has been very mixed. They're saying that the iPhones have tested better. I'm not sure if that's what you're seeing.
I've been trying to test it out, and the difference is much less noticeable from my initial results than I thought it was going to be. And I'm hoping to do a more thorough investigation of that. But, I don't know. I mean, I think I've said this before. It's a good phone for average consumers. I think for enthusiasts, the S20 is probably going to be a little bit better of a value with that micro SD card slot. And, I don't know. So it's kind of mixed. I like the design, and, it's a good phone. It's just going to be depending on what your use case is, what you want to get out of your smartphone experience.
Is it, hey, Sneed, what's your daily driver, man? You got 7 phones, right?
What do I got around here, man? All right, so I got
all right.
I got 2 iPhones. I have a 12 Pro and a 12. And I've got a S20 Plus that I really like.
Mm-hmm.
I really like that phone. I just got rid of a Moto Edge Plus. I really like that one too, the Verizon exclusive. And I love my Pixel 5, man.
Ooh,
Pixels are the best. They are
So
the best
nice.
phone. They're the best. I've been using them since the OG Pixel. I've had every single one. I had all the Nexus devices from Shamu, the Nexus 6, the 6P.
From Huawei,
I had the 5. Yeah, I had them all, man. They were great. And, man, I love the Pixel experience. The camera is second to none. The battery life is solid. The RF is good enough. I know it's kind of mid-ranger, right? It's not the greatest. But I reach for, out of all my phones, I reach for the Pixel first. It's crazy. Even though it's the mid-ranger out of all the phones I got, that's the one I reach for more frequently.
That's why Google needs to make a flagship. That's what I'd love to see, that beautiful software experience paired with flagship hardware.
And Sneed, I know you have some premium taste when it comes to cell networks, but I gotta ask you, man, after all this time that you've had now with Visible, right, at $25 a month, do you think they're good enough to be your primary line, or are you still stuck on that sweet old Verizon plan that you have, or are you stuck on that T-Mobile Max plan? What is your if I had to keep only one plan, right? What cell phone plan would you keep if you had to?
Here in the CLE, you could use Visible as a primary. You could, but there's a tower site every mile, so the congestion is not bad. There's very few moments where I'm getting deprioed, even on Visible. I could probably run a speed test right now and get 100 megs in my house on Visible. I don't think it ever dips below that. I'll get 160 on my postpaid. It's obviously faster and a higher priority. But it's an incredible value. If Verizon is strong where you are, Visible is the best offer because you're getting essentially just no restrictions. I mean, the only thing you could say is I don't get 3G, but why is that a thing? I don't get 3G, you only get LTE and 5. Why would you care to only to not get 3G, right? So
my iPhone 4, Sneed, I want to use my iPhone 4.
Right.
Oh man, I remember
Awesome.
that phone. It was a legend.
Well, we've been going for a while, so I think we should wrap this one up. I want to
Sure.
give a huge shout out and thank you to Sneed for joining us for this amazing
Stetson.
live stream, and for everyone in the chat who is here. And we really appreciate all your support and the amazing enthusiasm. I know I missed some super chats. I'm sorry, the chat just kept on scrolling. The conversation kept on going. I want to extend a thank you and serious gratitude to everyone who chose to donate. I think Carlos did mention that Magenta Max may be deprioritized at some point, starting a little bit of controversy there, so we'll have to do more thorough testing. Again, you can find all of Sneed's content linked in the video description. You can join Sneed's Patreon, also linked below. This is where he posts exclusive content, exclusive live streams. I'm a member. I've really enjoyed it. And so if you're interested, please do consider checking that out. You can subscribe to Sneed at the link in the video description as well. And, of course, you can check out our Patreon page, the Best Phone Plans, or I guess it's the Stetson Doggett Patreon page. But you're helping to support Dennis and I as we build this show. We do fun, cool things, and we post some extra content there. So we'd love your support, and we appreciate your support. And I think that's going to be it for this episode. Sneed, anything else you want to send off the audience with? Any messages?
Thank you for a great show. Thanks for having me on, Stetson. Dennis, it was a pleasure speaking with you as well. Great community. I mean, the conversation was great. We saw a ton of people in here getting involved and, partaking in the discourse. So we appreciate you very much. My channel, linked in the description. Check me out, Sneed Mobile Tech. I do live streams like this. I have a podcast. I bring guests all the time. Stetson's on there. I'm going to bring Dennis on now if he wants to join us. Intermingle the communities quite a bit. This should be fun.
Absolutely. All right, that's going to be it for this episode. Thank you all for joining, and we look forward to talking to you in the next one.
Peace.
Peace out.